Welcome to another episode of The Modern Moron. Today my guest is professional writer and amateur political scientist, Tim Lovestedt. We talk politics, not because of a particular political figure or a political issue or the next presidential election next year, but because Tim has a bachelor's degree in political science. So technically he has a BS about BSers. I really don't know any more about politics than I do anything else, so I have some questions. On this program, there is no such thing as a stupid question. In fact, it's my bread and butter. He's also a writer, a professional writer, who started out writing sketch comedy, moved to writing a lot of essays and theme papers and position papers for his college degree, and then screenwriting. They say, write what you know. Tim and I talk about a project he is currently working on that is very personal, and it really takes a lot of bravery to expose that, not only to the world, but to put it in front of executives like movie studio executives and network executives who get paid a lot of money to have expert opinions but don't know a goddamn thing more than anyone else. No bitterness here, no resentment, but it does take courage, and he is in the process of getting it out on paper. And we'll hear a little bit about what it was like having a father who was a homicide detective in Los Angeles during the late 70s and 80s. But we probably won't get to that part until the episode after this one. Yeah, cliffhanger in the introduction. We also talk about a screenplay and film he worked on called MeaganLeavy, a true story starring Kate Mara, Edie Falco, and Common the Rapper. Yeah, I knew Common was a rapper. Whatever. Also at the end of the episode, I'll have some details on the rest of this season, if that's what you want to call it, and what we'll be looking at in those episodes as we wrap up this pretty crazy decade. It's a thumb in the eye of poli-sci, plus the movie MeaganLeavy on The Modern Moron. Thanks for listening. Congratulations, you're a new daddy.
I am. She is going to be 8 weeks old on Tuesday.
She is so cute. Oh, my
Thank
gosh.
you, yeah.
Well, she's got a good gene pool.
Yeah, I think so. I think Candace and I have a real strong mix.
Yeah.
She's a lot like her dad. She's either pooping, screaming, or eating. So it's like,
wow, poor Candace. She's just got two beings that do one of three things. Must be really engaging for her around the house.
Sometimes in unison. I'm like, all right, ready? Here we go.
Okay, I don't need that visual. Here's my last update on you was, and this is, oh my God, so long ago. You were going for your teaching credential. Was that completely off base or was that right?
No, I don't know that it was off base. I think what happened is I got cut from the Sunday company and I had done 2 years. And that's a long time, as you know.
Yes, I do.
And for people who don't know, it's a boot camp of sketch comedy. And I did it for 2 years. I mean, you're constantly writing, costuming, memorizing, all that stuff. And when I was cut, I was like, well, now what?
Right.
And I did go back to school because I felt like I had built up this muscle. This pace.
Very intense.
And it would be a shame if I
lost momentum type of thing.
Yeah, let that go. Exactly.
So what did you study?
The subject that eventually died here a few years ago, which was political science.
Total self-serving lie.
Now it's like, well, throw all that old stuff out the window. I loved it. I loved it. And I did really well, the best I'd ever done in school. And
awesome.
And then it sort of got me into writing because we had to do a lot of different kinds of writing than obviously sketch comedy.
Right.
Because you had to develop position papers sort of on the fly, which is a totally different kind of writing. I just felt like, I'd sort of done the sketch comedy writing and I'd done this writing. And I felt like I was a pretty good writer at that point. Not that I'm an all-star.
But you've done a lot of it.
Yeah, I felt like, man, I've been doing for 5 years is writing. And so I just kept doing it and started finding stuff that I liked, obviously more long form, and kept writing.
Cool. Did you get a degree?
I did in political science, which, as I mentioned, is useless.
Because there is no science to politics.
Little rocket man.
There used to be like these hard, fast rules.
Like what? Like what are some of the principles that you learned when you were studying political science? What are some of those principles?
Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. One was, I remember having this professor who taught a class on the presidency. And there were two parts of it. The first part was about who gets elected president and what determines based on the candidate's geography, where they're from, where they served their, like if they were a senator or a congressman, and how those things are very important in determining electability. And all of that is kind of out the window because you have people who haven't served office at all.
There's no better word than stupid.
Current president. And, you had a lesser known candidate before him.
Thanks, Obama.
I just think in the internet age, geography becomes very much more local. It's at your fingertips. And so I don't even care to know where Elizabeth Warren is a senator. I know she's from Massachusetts, but that's not as essential as it used to be.
Isn't that a good thing?
I wouldn't say it's good or bad. I just think it's different. And so a lot of that orthodoxy, as and I think it's happening across the board. Those sort of complex institutions are sort of being broken down and leveled off.
Do you think there should not be an electoral college and should just be the popular vote?
Oh, man. I'm sort of split on that because I did live in Missouri, a very rural part of Missouri, for a year. My first year of college out of high school. And if I lived there, would I want all of the people of Los Angeles to determine and negate 4 or 5 states? Because of their population?
Just because of the density of the population.
Yeah, I mean, do we all want to do what Beijing decides? Like, if you look at it that way, like, I don't know that population centers hold all the truth or all the power, or should they, But the other point that people make is valid too. It's like, why does Montana get to carry 2 senators just like California? So I don't have a yes or no answer to that.
I mean,
sorry.
Nobody. Well, I was expecting to leave this conversation knowing what to do from now on.
Don't you waste my time no more.
No, it's a tricky system. I think that.
Yeah, it sure is. As tricky as it's ever been, right?
Right, but I think it's built that way.
Yeah.
It's built to make it hard. And we live in an age where everybody wants everything done instantly, so it's sort of antithetical to the system.
In your studies, was there also, I don't know why this came to mind, but in studying political science, was there a theory behind, as you said, what senatorial offices, what state were they a senator in, or is being a senator versus being a governor? Does one of those paths trump, no pun intended, the other?
We didn't really get into, does it matter? I mean, I think if you go back and look at all the presidents, if you're a senator or a governor, you stand a better chance than if you were just a congressman.
Or what about a mayor? How many times have we had a mayor running for president?
I was just listening to Mayor Garcetti, the mayor of LA. I mean, I think he was saying LA is the 19th largest economy in the world. So if that's true, he's more than capable of holding the office of president. But you would think like, well, he was just a mayor. And he's doing day-to-day water
operations,
all that, the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of a mayor. They're very close to the people. I think senators and congressmen and women are not that in tune or close to their constituents. They're, in Washington most of the time, or in a hurry to get back so they can say what they think you want them to say, type of thing. Whereas mayors are like, they're a little more, they seem to me a little more accountable.
That was one of the things they drilled into you in school I forget the guy who came up with this, but his whole philosophy was that your congressmen and senators, his quote was, they are single-minded seekers of re-election. So they will always act in the interest of being reelected. And I just don't think that's true anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
If there is a single-mindedness to them and it's not to be reelected, what do you think it is?
I think it's money. Because I think here's the disconnect, is that I don't think there are that many people living amongst us who keep up with the day-to-day inner workings of Senate bills and House resolutions and who wrote them and who's funding them, because none of us have the time. And so if they are single-minded seekers of re-election, the only thing they're actually doing is like, hey, when you come to Washington, I'll make this tour available, or you can come to my office. I think it's those little teeny things that are showy more than substantive. I feel like it's a monster, and they are trying to get as much off of it as they can for as long as they can, while
absolutely,
while being under the guise of constituent services or helping people, the small guy. That's what I think.
So that makes me think of term limits.
Yeah.
I think of the Mitch McConnells and Nancy Pelosi's is like, of course they're not going to step down. They've worked so long and so hard to acquire the influence and power and relationships that they have. They don't want to let that go.
Yeah, but this is another thing that I'm sort of on both sides on. I feel like, especially in the Senate, you need people who know how that thing works because there's tricky rules.
How to get a bill through type of thing?
Yeah, and also how...
Besides Schoolhouse Rocks?
I'm just a bill, and I got as far as...
I thought that was enough.
It's like all these things like cloture votes and the filibuster and how these machinations within the Senate work. You need the old guard around.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm both sides on that one too. I sort of understand you don't want people there for a lifetime, but what if it's a great senator?
Mm-hmm.
Those happen. We do have great senators.
Well, they can go become consultants. That's what a lot of influential state legislators do. I mean, they go into they open their own consulting shop.
I thought you were going to say they can go into construction, Tim. They can do drywall and steel stud framing.
They can.
Don't worry about
it.
Can you please stop talking?
Do you think God, I didn't think we were going to go this direction, but that's kind of cool. Do you think there should be kind of an overhaul of our political system? I mean, you have a knowledge of it.
Yeah, I think money's the problem. I think there's too much money in it. And
you have to follow the money. And that makes me think of lobbyists.
For sure. And I think that you're trying to serve the people that elected you, but money is trying to do something else. Convince me that you don't go with the money.
You do. The money is probably what got you elected, right? I mean, all they talk about when I see campaigns going on, who's raised the most money?
Yeah.
Who can get in your face the most to make you the name that they recognize, so they punch your name instead of Bob Smith's.
I just think that's the biggest ill is money, because you very rarely do you have people who take stands strictly on principle against moneyed interests.
They make it sound like they are, though. They're representing the people that gave them money.
Yeah, I mean that's
corruption, isn't it?
The long and short of it. Yeah, yeah, and it's dark. It reminds me of like Gotham City.
I'm Batman.
Yeah,
who's going to save us?
So when you study political science, it sounds like there's a very philosophical element to it.
Yeah, there's so much about it that I really enjoyed. And I don't know if that's a product of the fact that I had come out of comedy and then all of a sudden I was in these classes where I took a politics of sub-Saharan Africa class. And I just remember I didn't want it to be over.
That's cool.
And you study these things, and I just found all of it to be really fascinating on different levels, whether it was policies like abstinence-only education or the DARE program to keep kids off of drugs, and investigating the efficacy of those programs. Like, how do they work? Do they work? Are they worth the money that we're putting into them? What are the projected results? And do they achieve those results? Stuff like that, which I thought was fascinating. I didn't know people did that. I just thought you passed a law and you're like, hey,
next.
We're good, which I kind of think still happens. But
next law.
Yeah, we did that.
It sounds like waiting to go to college was a really good idea for you.
Yeah, because I knocked around quite a bit. Like I went to Missouri, a small school in Missouri when I was first out of high school. I grew up in the Valley, so I came back to Southern California. Mm-hmm. And then knocked around and then started doing stand-up and sketch and all that. And I've been sort of like that, where I think the longer I wait, the better I am at something. It's weird, but...
Well, you can't be a comedian, I think, without being an observer of life and watching things happen. Why did people react to that way? Or what's going on? Comedians question things.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you still do stand-up?
I don't.
Any desire to scratch that itch? Or is there an itch there anymore, I guess?
I did do an improv show probably like a year or so ago. And I just, I felt like the guy that shows up at the high school football game in his jersey.
Oh, and he's still got,
in his 40s, who's just like,
that's creepy.
I kind of feel like I'm part of it. I felt like it's, the game had passed me by a little bit, and I was okay with it. I wasn't like, there's no sadness or anything, but I just felt like I didn't want to be rolling around on the floor and like, we're all slugs. Now we can talk and like stuff like that. I just,
yeah. I had that experience where I'm living now, I thought about and read up on going to this class, and I saw, photographs of these 20-somethings rolling around on dirty carpet. I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do that. Then is your creative outlet now writing?
Yeah.
Is that it?
It's gotten more dramatic and less comedic and sometimes scary. Like I just did a project based on my father, and
Ooh.
and it took me a long time to sort of agree with myself to do that. And wasn't like a therapy thing. It was just like, you
had to give yourself permission to tell the story and be able to tell the story truthfully and not say, Dad, I'm selling you out. Is that type of thing?
Sort of. I mean, is
your dad still alive?
No, he passed away when I was 16. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. My dad was a robbery homicide detective, and he had a number of heart attacks. And so on his third one, he died. So it has been now over 30 years. And I just started to feel like I had stories, like.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah. Of growing up as a kid in a cop family and what that's like, and, how it affected me differently than my sister. And so these sort of different dynamics. And if I'm being honest, it was Candace that said, you'd be a fool not to write this down and create
write what you know.
Yeah, create something out of it. And so
and it so intimately.
Yeah. Yeah. It was,
so you wrote a pilot. Do you have a literary agent or a?
Well, yes and no. We have the Writers Guild has a dispute going with the agencies right now. So there's no.
Oh, okay.
So I do, but I don't contact him.
Has your air quotes agent ever encouraged you to write prose, like write a novel, or is it more screenplay type work?
You know what it is? It's, I think because of the Groundlings background, they always want me to write a sitcom.
Mm.
And I don't watch sitcoms.
Me neither. I don't watch TV, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. It's just not my pace. I feel like I'm sort of being bombarded when I watch a sitcom. Like there's just.
Yeah. How many jokes per page? Type of thing.
like it's
let it breathe a little bit.
Yeah. Like the TV and I are in a quarrel and people are laughing. Like it's just, it's a little much.
Is the norm in Los Angeles still the single camera type, that started, I want to say, with Arrested Development, or it has not gone back to the 4-camera sitcom style, right? Unless it's the Disney Channel.
Well, some of that, and even like CBS, some of those shows.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a traditional sitcom. What's the show on CBS? That's how out of it I am.
The Big Bang Theory?
The Big Bang Theory, yeah.
Bazinga. Yeah, it just ended its last.
Yeah, I've never seen an episode.
Oh my God. People reference things and I'm like,
Bazinga.
Yeah, I don't watch that. I mean, I watch Frontline and 60 Minutes, but I don't watch sitcoms. It's crazy.
So you can't write spec scripts, right?
No, because I don't have.
You got to know the show.
I have written a spec, a couple of them, but I tend to lean on the original stuff or stuff based on a book, things like that.
So last night I watched MeaganLeavy.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did. Man, that was heavy duty. I'm like, the sketch writer wrote this? I mean, that movie, the scenes in Iraq, was it Iraq?
Yes.
My takeaway from that was, if you're boots on the ground infantry person and you go to Iraq or Afghanistan, I don't see how you can come back and not have PTSD.
Yeah.
If you're a human being, you cannot not have PTSD. There was so much tension in those scenes. Searching a car or making people lift up their shirt to make sure they don't have a bomb on them, or walking through a field and putting down little red flags where this dog has sniffed out a bomb. I was just like sweating, going, oh my God. Can you imagine being there? Just a humbling experience watching that and thinking, you can't go there and not have PTSD.
So truth be told, I didn't write that complete script, not from page
one.
There
are 3 people listed as writers on that.
Pamela was the original writer.
Yes.
And so that script came over to my writing partner and I when we were writing together. And there were aspects of that script. And by the way, when I read that script, I'm like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
And I've never met Pamela, but that I loved her script. I loved everything that she did. And there were some things that they wanted changed. And so, that's a different thing too, because it's not a page one, it's not my idea.
Right.
And then you write it out.
You were given an assignment to do certain things to this script.
Correct. And so these are tricky things because,
okay,
I'm listed as a writer on the movie, but Pamela wrote from zero.
Well, she wrote from a true story, though.
Right. And so,
did MeaganLeavy put out a book? Did she write a book as well?
No, she had her story, and we had talked to her, and she's fantastic. She's great. And I'm still friends with her. And her story was just so, you said like, oh, these people that go, these soldiers that go. I felt like Meagan was somebody that should have gone. There was something in her that needed to go and have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her character, because obviously we're not doing a documentary, so you're writing this character. And so
right.
Part of it was finding the reason for that character to do that, because some of us in life, hey, why did you move there? I don't know. I don't know why I did.
She didn't know why she got on that bus, in a way, to go into the Marines.
Right. And so I remember seeing the movie and I was crying the whole time because it was so intimate at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really proud of it.
You should be. I think it was a great film. I really like.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's it's got dogs in it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, who doesn't love a dog?
Yeah, right.
Plus, now it's getting the bump of the modern moron. Rentals for this movie are at least guaranteed to raise by at least one.
Especially,
and it's the rental that I did last night.
Especially when you refer to it as rentals. That's really gonna.
Well, it's not available. It's not in theaters anymore, is it?
Wait, maybe it's available at Blockbuster. I don't know.
I streamed it. Is that what I'm supposed to say? I streamed it.
Believe me, I don't know what to say anymore. I just sort of make it up.
It was great. So good. And everybody did such a great job. And Kate Mara?
Yeah, Katie Mara. Yeah.
Katie Mara. She did.
Yeah.
How about Edie Falco? MeaganLeavy's real mother couldn't have been too thrilled about her portrayal.
Well, I think that
How did that go down? Huh?
I think that's the general warning you give people when they agree to have their story told, is you say, listen, your mom, your dad, your husband, whoever it is super cool. But in the movie, our hero needs to sort of bump along before they make their jump to heroism. So,
right. In their journey.
There might be a little character development along the way.
So are you hinting that MeaganLeavy's mother really isn't that much of a dick?
Yeah, I guess I can't imagine she is. How's that?
Did you meet her? Was she at the premiere?
I didn't go to the premiere because...
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay.
No, they actually, the studio that did that was a company called LD, and they're fantastic. And they did the premiere at Yankee Stadium and played it for veterans and soldiers.
Maybe we could get MeaganLeavy's mother on here and let her clear her name to our audience of all 5 of us. We'll get a little bit more from Tim and the story he has to tell about his father's life as a homicide detective and vice squad in Los Angeles in the late 70s and into the 80s. As for the remaining episodes for this year, whoever I can get on the show, and if you'd like to be on the show, simply go to themodernmoron.com and contact us. Whoever I get, I'd like to take a look back at this decade that is coming to a close. In 50 years or so, I think this decade will be looked back upon as significantly as the 60s are. Yeah, Facebook began and hit 1 million users in 2004, but it was in 2010 that features such as the ability to like a person's comment and a redesign of their interface that, according to Wikipedia, emphasize the most important parts of someone's life, like your biography, photos, education, work experience, and your relationships. Remember that? It's when we all started sharing lots and lots of stuff, information that simply would be referred to as data. Data that would, does, and will create profiles about you and people like you. Another thing happened early in 2010 that involved Facebook and social media was called the Arab Spring. Remember that? It started in Tunisia and spread across North Africa, and it was fueled by the people and social media and for the people and social media. And government didn't know how to keep up, but they learned. Yeah, governments learned by 2016, and certainly before it, social media and their data gathering ways had influenced and are influencing the societies in other countries and our country, in our election, and in the Brexit ongoing fiasco and around the world. Again, watch The Great Hack on Netflix. There's no burying our heads in the sand on this one. So yeah, a ton of other stuff happened in this decade, and while social media's infancy was in the early 2000s, it became an angst-riddled teen in the teens of 2000. I hope you'll join us for a look at different facets of this crazy decade, and thank you for listening to The Modern Moron. See you next time.